This is my husband, Jake, and I just gave him a watch that I built from scratch.
What? This looks so cool.
And this isn't just any watch, it's one he desperately needed. Why? Because for the past 100 days, he hasn't had a phone, which means every single day he's been asking me, what time is it? Over and over and over again. So I decided it's time he got a watch. But this watch is also a celebration for a huge milestone. For the past few months, he's been working hard to take our YouTube channel out of this tiny bedroom studio and into a real office space, which is happening soon. So to mark that occasion, this watch felt like the perfect gift to remember the time we finally moved out of our bedroom. And since we're budgeting so tightly for the office, I couldn't drop hundreds of dollars on a new watch. Instead, I built it myself, and I did it with only $100. But first, I have to make sure I'm building a watch he'd want to wear. And to get this right, I had to be sneaky. If you've ever worn a watch, you would know the number one thing is fit. If a watch is too big, it overwhelms your wrists and it looks silly. On the other hand, too small and it makes your forearms look like Popeyes. So to figure this out, I had to covertly measure his wrist size. And what better way to do that than say I need it for another video? Easy. So I got it 7 inches on the dot. Whew, that makes my job easy. That's perfectly average for men's wrists, so most watches should look great on him, theoretically. But there's a bigger problem, something that might make him never wear any watch that I build, even if it's the perfect fit or the perfect look, and that's arm hair. He's had several watches before, but he never wore them because these straps pulled on his arm hair. It's not really a problem I would understand. So rubber straps are out and stainless steel bracelets also out. That leaves me leather or nylon. And of course, there's the budget. Instead of buying a $300 watch, I'm aiming for $100, thanks to AliExpress, the not sponsor of today's video, because I had to pay for it. Now you might think $100 is too cheap for a good looking watch, but watch this. Nice. This is going to be a lot better than you expect. So there's a large subreddit called Seiko Mods for custom watch builds, which is great for finding inspiration. There's so many different watch styles, so I want to find another classic / rugged build to emulate / take inspiration from. So when I look here, a lot of these watches have big rings around the watch face, and these are called bezels, and there are a variety of different types. Bezels are the first thing you actually notice when you look at a watch. They stand out, so it's important to get it right. This one looks like a Pepsi soda can with the red and blue accents. But bezels aren't all about looks, they actually have function. There's some for traveling or diving. These bezels help you tell the difference of 2 time zones, and others track how long you've been underwater. And as cool as they are, Jake doesn't travel a lot or go scuba diving. So I think he'll prefer a simple watch on this one. It'll match the rugged look. Let's go to the next most important factor, the size of the case. Since he has a decent sized wrist, this is gonna be easy. Anything from 38 to even 42 will look balanced. So far, we know we need a simple bezel, an average case size, and a strap that doesn't pull on his arm hair. So for the strap, I'm leaning towards leather. It's super clean, it's versatile for dressy and casual events. You can't dive with it or swim, but hey, we're not really doing that. And look, I found the perfect case for it. A 39mm case with a butterfly buckle leather strap. And for only $30, that's a steal. With this kind of strap, it won't kink up like regular leather straps after you pull on it a bunch of times. For the watch itself, since it's a relatively simple design without a fancy bezel, we only need 5 major components: the strap, the case, the movement, the hands, and the dial. But in our case, the strap and the case are combined, so that's 2 parts down, ready to go. Next is the movement, which is the brain of the watch. The most popular movement for building custom watches for beginners is the Seiko NH35. It's an automatic movement, which means you'll never need batteries. A normal watch needs a regular battery replacement every 2 to 3 years. And I really can't see him opening his watch up to replace the batteries, so an automatic is perfect. And for this one, this watch works by using kinetic and potential energy via a series of rotors, gears, and springs, so you move your arm and the watch automatically winds itself. Pretty cool. And this specific movement also tells you the date of the month too. Super convenient. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different movements on the market, but these Seiko ones are some of the most popular because of their price and availability. So I'm gonna keep it simple with the NH35. And it looks like this will also cost me about $30. So I've got $40 left in the budget between the dial and the hands, which are the two things that make the watch look cool. This is where things get tricky. The hands and the dial have to match to give the watch a cohesive look. If we're going rugged, we're most likely gravitating towards a pilot watch used for flying or a field watch that was designed for the military. Both of these have very legible dials with actual numbers instead of these little sticks called indices. This is good. Now we're finally narrowing down the options. While browsing Reddit, I stumbled onto the perfect looking rugged watch. I needed this. Something called the Overlander mod. I have no idea where the name came from, but it sounds like a TV show / movie. I have no idea. I wish I knew. Someone tell me. After some browsing, I got parts that fit the overall aesthetic I was going for. Manly, outdoorsy, but also something he can wear casually or even to a nice event. And surprisingly, everything came out to be a little under $100, even with tax. What a steal. I sure hope he'll like it though. So if you want to follow along, I've linked everything down below. So let's start building. Now for the nitty gritty, the hard part. After 2 weeks, here are all of the parts. The movement, the dial, the hands, and the case. I laid them out and just stared for a moment. Right now, it's just a collection of parts, but soon this will be Jake's watch, a watch I built with my own hands. So I take a deep breath. Let's get to work. I also have all the tools, which I'll link down below, and this is just the real necessary stuff. Before anything though, you have to put on the finger condoms. Dust and fingerprints are your #1 enemy here. So the first thing we need to do is unbox the movement, the heart, and the soul of the watch, the Seiko NH35. This thing is a workhorse of a movement. It can go so many years without servicing or maintaining it. And you see the piece of paper? Don't throw it away, because in my first build I did, which was a huge mistake. This little metal bar is the watch stem, and it's how you control your watch after putting it back together. Without it, you can't change the date or the time, or if you have other features, you can't work with your watch. On the back, this big moving piece is the rotor. If this thing moves, it gives the watch energy, but only a bit. To really jumpstart the watch, you need to wind it, and that can't happen without a watch stem. It might help to buy a couple extra in case you mess up, but I like to live on the edge. Once you have it unboxed, to put it in the movement holder. It's the round metal thing, and the holder gives the movement extra space underneath, so it basically floats. This lets you work with it without damaging the underside. And this little blue attachment is a temporary stem, and you'll be replacing this later. With that in place, set it on standby, and now it's time to unbox the watch dial. Look at this thing of beauty. This is the most satisfying thing to unbox ever. It's so shiny and beautiful, plus it gives you a preview of what the final watch will look like. This little window at where the 3 should be is where the date from the movement peeks through. If you turn the dial around, there are these stems sticking out of it. Mine has 4, but yours could have 2 or 6. Dials have this to accommodate different crown locations. The crown is a thing attached to the stem that you see on the outside of a watch. Some are in the 4 o'clock position, some are in 2, some are in 8. Most watches built from AliExpress use a 3 or a 4 o'clock position, so we need to cut off some of the sticks poking up. But which ones? If you look at your movement, you see 2 holes along the gray plastic. You need to align the dial so that the date window is at the 3 o'clock position, and then see which ones need to cut off. I like to sand it down a bit to make the dial completely flush. Just don't sand over your movement, and make sure you clear off your area afterwards. Then you push it on the movement, and boom, the first step is complete. The next step is the make it or break it step. The step that requires the most concentration and focus. So let's unbox the hands, because it's time to put them on, and be gentle because they are fragile. In my case, I've got 3 hands, the hour hand, the minute hand, and the seconds. So first, we need to pull the stem out all the way, and you should feel 2 distinct clicks. The first one is for the date, which we'll do later, and the second is for the time. When the stem is pulled out all the way, the second hand also stops moving. This is called seconds hacking. Now, if you rotate the stem clockwise until you see the date start to change to the next day, you'll hear a distinct click. This means that it is 12 o'clock midnight. This is the only time on the watch without the hands attached that you know the exact time, and this is the position that will put the hands on. So the first hand is the hour hand, the shortest hand that you have. I like to grab my hands with a little bit of Rodico, which is the blue tack stuff here. It's slightly sticky and it's commonly used to clean watch parts. So I roll a little bit, stick it on the hand, and grab it. So now you just need to select your hands pusher that's the correct size for your hour hand. You can see that the ends of the pushers have different size holes. The hour hand is usually the biggest hole. So align it to 12 o'clock and push it down, and once it's aligned, push it down gently with the pusher with a steady force. And if it stays on, you know you did it right. If it doesn't, well, try again. And then you repeat this for your minute hand, which is next, and you pick another hand pusher. So the second hand is the most difficult hand because it's the smallest one. The movement has this pinion that sticks up, and your second hand sort of has this like cap thing you're supposed to push onto like that. It's really hard. It's super small. And for this, I have a secret technique that I actually learned off Reddit. You take a little tiny piece of Rodico, roll it into a tiny ball, and then put it at the end of your hand pusher. Then you take your second hand and center it onto your pusher. And then with the movement up, you'll feel where it aligns and then slowly push it down. Usually it takes me about 2 to 3 tries to get this right, but if you feel a bunch of resistance, then stop because you could end up messing up either your hand or the pinion. Just take your time with it. It's pretty hard, but you got this. So I got that done, and this is the most sad. There are a lot of satisfying steps here, but this one is a one where you feel so good because when you push your stem back in, the second hand starts moving and you'll know it's right. It's celebration time. The hardest part is over and your watch is actually working. It can tell time now. The next thing is seeing your watch inside the case for the first time. In my case, it has a couple of parts. Usually there's 2, the case itself and the case back, which is how you open and close it. And so with the dial hand movement combination thing, it's time to take off your temporary stem and insert your permanent stem. Ooh. On the movement with the stem pushed all the way into winding position, there's a tiny lever you have to press at the same time you pull your stem out. And my camera is really not good enough to show you, but I'll include a really helpful close-up video linked below as well. And you have to do this with a tiny little screwdriver or a pointy stick of some sort. It'll take a couple of tries, but eventually the stem comes out. So you remove your crown from your case and then you put the movement in. Once you turn it around, it looks pretty good, huh? So you have to tinker around a bit to get everything to fit together. Now that your movement is in your case, you can take your permanent stem and screw back the crown onto it, then put it inside the stem hole and stick it all the way in until it's in winding mode. So once everything is aligned, now comes the tricky part. The stem is too long. We need to measure how far it is from the base of the crown to the case. I have some calipers, but you could use a good old-fashioned ruler. Mine is approximately 6.5 millimeters away, so I'll just cut off a big chunk of it. I like to leave some room to sand it back because you can always cut more, but you can't put it back. So after sanding it, cleaning it up, screwing it back on, and pushing it in, it takes a couple tries to get it right, so I had to do it 3 times, like cut, sand to do it. But eventually, it fits perfectly. Now I can test it by pulling it out to change the time, the date, and wind it. Boom. Easy. Sort of easy. Now for the case assembly, we're almost done with the whole thing. Make sure you re-lube your gaskets to maximize your watch's water resistance, and all you have to do is screw it together according to the instructions. So onwards I went. Time to put on the strap. First you want the spring bars to go through the leather strap, and then you put the spring bars near where the lugs are, which are these metal bits, and it helps to use a spring bar tool, which makes it 100 times easier than using a screwdriver. This specific clasp has a deployment clasp, also called a butterfly clasp, so it's a bit more complicated. Both sides come together in the middle to snap in, and sizing it is pretty easy. Let's go see what he thinks.
Well, hello.
Hello.
I've got a surprise for you.
No. What is it?
What do you think?
Well, you've been over there hunked over for a few hours, so I have no idea.
I've been doing dirty things.
Are you covered in lube again?
No.
What? This looks so cool. It looks awesome.
You gonna put it on?
Yeah. I gotta take off my Pebble though.
Cool guy.
My Power Ranger watch. Whoa, this looks awesome. Look at the texture on the wrist rest, yeah. I'm so keyboarded out of my mind. Whoa, it looks really good. It looks almost too nice for me, you know?
How much do you think it costs?
It honestly looks like the watch itself is worth like $2,500. What?
Cause it was 100.
Really? If you didn't tell me that you built it, I feel like I would have thought this would be a really expensive watch.
Maybe I should have said it was like a $3,000 watch.
I would have believed it, honestly.
And then you'd be like, what are you spending our money on?
We don't have the budget for this.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For getting us an office space.
So it looks like a major success. He thinks the watch is very nice and he'll actually wear it too. Was it worth building it instead of buying it? I'd say so. It gives the watch a lot more personality. This is a one-of-one watch that you can't buy anywhere unless you follow this entire guide step by step. Then I guess you have the same one. It's within our budget, and he gets to test drive wearing a watch for $100 instead of $300. If you're looking to try out watches, maybe share this video with your significant other and ask them to build you a special gift too. And at least now he'll stop asking me what time it is every day. If you want to get a watch on a budget that has a super interesting history that may surprise you, check out this video here. Bye!